In today's episode of Locked On Pistons podcast, we discuss JB Bickerstaff's comments about seeing Ausar Thompson on ball more. Are we going to see Point Ausar more this season with Cade Cunningham on the floor? We'll talk about it in today's episode of Locked On Pistons podcast.
You are Locked On Pistons, your daily Detroit Pistons podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's the deal? Welcome back to another episode of the Locked On Pistons podcast. Per usual, I am your host, Khahil. I've been covering the Detroit Pistons for the last 4 years with the Locked On Network, been a credential media member over the last 3 years. I want to thank all of you guys for making Locked On Pistons your first listen of every single day. We are free and available on all your podcast platforms. If you haven't already, head to the YouTube channel at Locked On Pistons, hit that subscribe button, or leave us a 5-star review on whatever podcast platform you're listening to this on. That's another great way to support the podcast. And today we are joined by friend of the podcast, Matt Griffin. You guys can find us over on the Playback. Matt is always up there with me, watching or hosting the Pistons live watch parties. Again, we'll link that down below for you guys if you guys want to join us for Thursday's game, the second preseason game as well. Matt, how are you doing, man? Appreciate you coming on.
Man, I'm good, Koo. I've been on the on-deck circle here, a little bit of inside Locked On Pistons. I've been on the on-deck circle here for 35 minutes. DJ Kumo D has been messing around with audio settings, so I've already done this whole podcast in my head, so I know exactly what I'm gonna say.
We'll see. I'll take you guys behind the curtains. We wouldn't have these problems if Matt still wasn't Matt's been without a laptop, everybody, for like 2.5 months. So now I told him we can do it with you on your phone, but we gotta test it out. And it took us like he said, 30 minutes to get the settings correct and make sure everything was good. But hoping everything's working fine now. Everything's good. It sounds good on my end, so hopefully everything's good. But
I apologize to viewers for if the audio is bad. To be fair, I told the crew, I was like, hey, I don't know, man. I don't have a laptop. I don't know if it'll work. But
nah, it sounds good. And if it doesn't, I'll make sure I fix it.
Tigers just won, so I'm in a good mood.
Oh, there you go. I saw they won 9-3.
Yeah.
Right. Fair enough.
Shout
all right,
out.
Game 5. Here we go.
Are you actually gonna watch that one? Game 5?
No, I'm probably not.
Okay,
Probably not. Sorry.
enough.
All right, so we're going to talk about Point Ausar to start off today. Later on, we'll talk about other Game 1 takeaways that Matt had watching the Pistons. Obviously, it's preseason, but there's some minor things that were maybe impressive or some minor details that maybe you're watching for moving forward. And then also I want to talk about the battle for the 10th rotation spot by the Detroit Pistons. JB Bickerstaff's talked a lot about that. But let's start with Point Ausar. And the reason why we're starting here is because just like usual with the podcast, we go through days of practice, day through training camp and preseason, and whatever JB Bickerstaff and whatever comes out of camp is what I like to talk about during preseason. Regular season, that's not really what we do. I have my own content. I'd like to go with my own takeaways, whatever from the games, et cetera, et cetera. But especially during preseason and training camp, I like to listen to what they're saying and take away what they're telling us during camp. And JB Bickerstaff talked a lot today at practice about wanting to see Ausar Thompson on ball with Cade on the floor more. He says, quote, that's something that's going to happen more because of the gravity Cade holds. People are hug up on him. Now you can take it. Now you can play advantages situations off of him. I don't know if they typed that right, but that didn't sound right. And he also said it makes Cade. Yeah, I think that's what they were trying to type. Maybe they mistyped it. But it makes Cade a better offensive player. Then Cade was asked about playing next to Ausar with him running the offense. And Cade says, quote, it's good to mix it up, giving him room to get more and more comfortable with it as preseason goes along. I think it will be a big weapon for us. And then the final thing I'd like to say about it is JP Bickerstaff's quote saying, the tempo that he plays with, that is, where he has the ball in his hands and the threat that he becomes, it changes the way teams have to guard him. So with all that said, Matt, we obviously got a decent amount of Ausar's minutes in Game 1 where he was actually running the action when Cade was on the floor. So what was obviously it's preseason, we're not going too crazy with it, but just what was your instant first look reactions to how the Pistons were utilizing Ausar with Cade on the floor?
I was honestly kind of surprised just how often he was on the ball. Ausar being Ausar. I thought, me and you both, I think, have been clamoring for it kind of for a long time, going back to the game, going back to before he had that couple game stretch when Cade sat down where Ausar did kind of get to run the offense, and he looked really good, and there's a lot of good things happening that we thought, hey, we can apply this when Cade is on the floor too. Obviously not to the same degree, but it excited me, man. I mean, it wasn't perfect for sure. I think the handle is always going to be kind of the thing that I come back to, or the thing that I'm really watching for when we talk about his ability to kind of scale up, to sort of develop into being a guy who has an on-ball role. And that's still probably lagging behind where you want it to be when you talk about somebody who you want with the ball a lot for a good team, right? But still really promising to see nonetheless. I think that it's as much about Ausar getting those reps as it is about Cade getting those reps to me, because this is a whole different, this could be a whole different podcast really, but I think like the identity shift within this year's team versus last year's team is just the amount of ball handling that they're going to have, at least to start the season, right? Like, you bring in Karis LeVert. Marcus Sasser is obviously on your bench. Jaden Ivey is coming back, hopefully taking up a bigger role. Duncan Robinson, he's not an on-ball player, so to speak, but he can handle the ball. They obviously want to empower Jalen Duren to continue handling the ball and making decisions with it. Obviously, the whole team, but I'm excited for that sort of portion of the offense, how different that's going to look. I mean, I think like I hope that people don't overreact if Cade's counting stats maybe, or like his raw counting stats don't match what they were last year, just because his usage is down a little bit. I mean, that's how the game goes.
Yeah, I think it's interesting because just a week and a half ago, JB told us that he was asked, do they want to take the ball out of Cade's hand more? He said, no, we want Cade to have the ball in his hands. We want our best player to have the ball in his hands. And now today we're hearing, and we saw it in the games, and we're hearing today that like, hey, yeah, Cade's going to be off ball a little bit with the Ausar. We want to see Ausar with the ball in his hands. And I don't think those two, I know initially people will think those two statements contradict each other. I don't think that's necessarily the case. I think what JB is more so insinuating here is that Cade's still going to get the ball. Cade's going to have the ball in his hands a lot. It's just maybe going to happen in different type of ways, where it's not just him at the top of the key looking at a set defense every possession, running pick and rolls. And we saw him, I mean, it's a preseason game, but in 15 minutes, he was uber efficient playing off of Ausar in transition. It wasn't just Ausar as well, by the way. It was also obviously Ivy. It also was Dennis Jenkins a little bit. It was Karis LeVert a little bit. Like we saw Cade get movement threes up in this game. We saw him get some, like he was getting his shots up. He was getting his usage, but it was in different ways.
Yeah. And I think like just given kind of the configuration of the lineup, right? I think like the overlooming question for a lot of us is the backup 4 spot. Like you kind of have a lot of ball handlers, and the forward is a little bit lacking, like the big wing. The cool part about Cade is that he can guard 3s and 4s as a point guard. And so you might play, like you might run 2 guards with Cade. Like you probably have to have that in your back pocket, just given how the roster is constructed. And those 2 guards are going to be able to, they're going to be good on the ball, I have to assume. Karis LeVert is better on the ball than he is off the ball, for example. So I think that it's great, man. I think that it's just going to help us be more versatile offensively, which was, I think, a huge problem for us last season. And like you said, I think, the 2 statements are a little bit contradictory, right? There's only one ball. How can you give one guy the ball more and take the ball out of the other, and not take the ball out of somebody else's hands? But maybe the way to frame it really is that Ausar will be on the ball more. That doesn't mean that Cade might be on the ball a little bit less, but he's still going to be making the bulk of the decisions. Even if like an advantage he's already been helped by an advantage created for him off of the ball, even if he is getting the ball already getting downhill, whatever it may be, just having varieties of getting your best player the ball in different spots and letting him make decisions from different areas. I think that is a principle of a lot of the best offenses, or a feature of a lot of the best offenses around the league. Like I think that skill set is what separates Halliburton to me from a lot of guards that are just like able to run offense. It's his capability of doing it without the ball and how constantly he's moving, and how Indiana can sort of shapeshift the way that they play offense around him. And I think like Jokic is obviously a completely different position, but it is kind of a similar thing where like he gets the ball in every which way imaginable, right? And they want to obviously, the mid post is kind of his area, and they run a lot of their sort of pet actions from him in that spot, but or at the elbow, but like they run him off of screens all of the time, right? And it's just so that he can make quick decisions, because he can make the best of them. And it's impossibly hard to guard Jokic on the ball. It's impossibly hard to guard him when he gets the ball moving. And you hope that Cade can kind of have that same transition and make us be a little bit more of a dual threat in that sense.
Yeah, and for those of you guys watching on YouTube, I'm looking to the side because I'm looking at Matt. My screen's right here. I know I've been not doing that as much, but it's kind of, I don't like just looking at the camera and not seeing who I'm talking. It is what it is. But I want to wrap it up with this. So you gave like your quick thoughts on how Ausar looked with the ball in his hands. You kind of answered this question. I was going to ask you this, but you kind of answered it already. But obviously, were you shocked that Ausar was on the ball as much as he was? Because I was. It wasn't just he got the ball a little bit more than, like, he was running a lot of the actions with or without Cade on the floor, again, it wasn't like he had the ball in his hands for 15 seconds or anything per possession, but he's bringing the ball up the floor, getting the action started, then moving around. Like, he was initiating a lot of what they were doing. I was a little shocked that they had him that much with the ball in his hands. Obviously you said you were, but kind of just dive a little further into how you felt that went.
Yeah, I mean, I would be surprised if that was kind of how the pie was divided in the regular season with lineups. Like I expect Karis LeVert to be on the ball a little bit more than Ausar, like in his minutes, for example. I don't know that they're going to just hand sort of like the backup point guard keys to Ausar very, immediately, right? I think Ivey will probably have the ball a little bit more than he had. I don't know. It felt a little bit more like, hey, let's try to establish this. Let's see where Ausar is, as opposed to like, hey, this is our new offense this season, right? So I was surprised, but I do think that it is a little bit more of like it is the preseason, so we're trying something out a little bit. We want to see how far along that this can get, because I mean, if he is able to develop into being like a full-fledged secondary ball handler, like the sky really is the limit.
Yeah, and I think it has a lot to do with like what Cade mentioned as well, is that Cade kind of did this past preseason when everyone was you remember everyone was like, oh my gosh, should we be concerned? Cade's not doing anything, blah blah. He was more aggressive in this one, right? He was more aggressive in this game, but like he kind of mentioned that he's kind of using this preseason. He wants Ausar to get his feet wet. He wants Ausar to feel comfortable. He wants his teammates to be feeling good going into the season. So I'm sure it's a lot to do with that. Like you mentioned, that they're giving Ausar these reps. They want to see how he looks. They want him to feel comfortable. And maybe it dials back a little bit when the season starts, but when he is called upon to do it, because of how much he did in the preseason, he's more comfortable and he's feeling good going into the year. I'm sure it has a lot to do with that as well. But I like what we saw from Ausar. I hope they continue to give him the ball. JB said that's something they want to do more of this year, multiple times at media day. He's done it in multiple practices and after this game. So I think it is going to be a heavy emphasis for this team to get Ausar the ball in his hands. We talked about this during the live watch stream, that like it kind of looked like Ausar at OT, how fast they were going off of misses, even makes, defensive. Like they were getting shots up in like less than 6-7 seconds on the shot clock. I have one clip I downloaded that Stu had a post up score with 18 seconds left on the shot clock. Like they got the ball up so quick and he got a post up hook shot with 18 seconds left on the shot clock. They were just moving fast as ever. And I think that suits a lot of the players' play style. I think that's going to make them a lot more explosive, especially in transition, obviously.
Yeah, and I think that's clearly the identity. When they went out and got Karis LeVert, like that was my first thought. One, he is really good in transition. If you just take a look at like the numbers and how his team performed in transition when he's on the court versus off the court, like there is a pretty real trend that he is boosting his team's transition attacks. And last year he started to round out his game a bit more and turn himself into like a more full-fledged kind of like real role player, I felt like. And this year, like, there's clearly an emphasis, obviously, on, like you said, going fast, which is clear. And that goes back to last season as well. But just grabbing and going, like, not really thinking about it too much. It's not breaking any ground necessarily, but when you have Ausar, who's a great positional rebounder, and he can grab the ball and just go, or Duren, if he is able to get to a level where you trust him really to grab and just go. I know he just does it sometimes. So clearly the JB trusts him with it to some degree. That creates so many matchup issues, man. Like last year, I feel like a great example is in the playoff series. Like Josh Hart was, he has his ups and downs offensively, but I thought late into that series, you saw him initiating a lot more offense. And a lot of times it was off of transition where he would grab and go. And then, if you're in transition, if you're trying to get back, you can't necessarily get the matchups you want. You're going to end up cross-matched. And so if working Cade off the ball, if having 3 or 4 guys that you trust to grab a rebound and just run the floor, the more likely Cade is to get a matchup that you really want. So I think that they are building into that culture, like the defense first and create transition. Obviously, you can't have transition without I guess you can if you ask the Bulls, but you can't have as much transition as you want without the defense. And so they're just building into their identity, man. They're constructing the team that they want to construct, and I think the pieces fit really well. Do we need more two-way players? Maybe. Potentially, yes. Are we 1 or 2 of those short? I think quite possibly, but I think otherwise, I feel like all these guys complement each other's play style.
So very long first segment. I apologize, Nick, if you listen to this, David. A very long first segment. We'll get to the ad break right now. Coming back, I'm sure all you guys listening, they'll probably really appreciate it. You guys enjoy like the longer segments, but again, sorry, Nick. We'll get to it. Coming up I want to talk about all the other I want to get to all the other preseason takeaways that Matt had from the first game of preseason. We'll break it all down coming up. Today's episode is brought to you by Quo. One of the tools that helps make a huge difference for business owners is Quo, formerly OpenPhone. It's the same great business phone system you've heard me talk about before, just with a new name. And here's why it matters. Every missed call is money left on the table. When every customer conversation counts, you need a phone system that keeps you connected 24/7. Quo is the #1 business phone system that streamlines customer communications. It works right through an app on your phone or computer, so no more carrying two phones or relying on a landline. The built-in AI agent is a game changer. It can answer after-hours calls, capture leads, and keep business moving even when you're off the clock. Whether you're a solo operator juggling everything or a part of a larger team, Quo makes it easy to stay responsive and professional. See why over 90,000 businesses trust Quo, formerly known as OpenPhone. Get started free and get 20% off your first 6 months at quo.com/lockedonnba. That's QUO.com/lockedonnba. And if you got existing numbers with another service, Quo will port them over at no extra charge. That's Quo, no missed calls, no missed customers at quo.com/lockedonnba. So I want to thank you guys again for making Locked On Pistons your first listen of every single day. We're free and available on all your podcast platforms. If you haven't already, head to the YouTube channel at Locked On Pistons, hit that subscribe button, or leave us a 5-star review on whatever podcast platform you're listening to us on. That's another great way to support the podcast. But Matt, let's get right into it because we did run a little bit long in the first segment. What were some of your other takeaways from the first game of preseason? Again, we will echo, it is the preseason. We're not going too crazy overboard. It's the first game. Like whatever. But I do think that watching throughout preseason, you can pick up on maybe some details or maybe some ideas of what the team is trying to do, or maybe some ideal changes that JB's trying to test out and that he's wanting to see. Just were there any of those takeaways that you had just from the minimal sample size we got from the first game?
Yeah, there were a couple. I think actually the one that pops to me now though is Isaiah Stewart. Just got his offensive process is always so interesting to me, just because I just kind of expect him to. I expected going into last year that he would shoot threes. You know, I expected last year that he would be a space, that he would pop, and that just wasn't really how they utilized him. And in that first preseason game, we saw. I think he probably popped on almost every screen. I feel like that set, or almost. And we saw him, pump fake and drive one, which was really nice to see on Jock. I think it was on Jock Landale, or he at least met Jock Landale at the rim. I think that's how I want to use him personally. I think that that's kind of the best way to utilize him, especially when, if he's sharing the floor with Ausar and Ron, for example.
Right, definitely, yes.
Any space that you can get, you want. I get that he's a good screener and he's a good rebounder, and so it makes sense to use him that way and have him around the rim as much as possible. But I thought that was really notable. And I thought overall, I touched on Stu's drive, but I just thought that there was kind of like a stronger drive and kick element than we had last year. And I mean, I guess that goes back to having the more ball handling thing.
Yeah, I think one of my bigger takeaways, I was going to actually mention that. I was going to talk about Stu popping on almost every screen, and it feels like Stu, at least not even just Stu himself. Let's just remove Stu. It seems like, kind of going back to like the idea changes of, it seems clear from what we were told at media day and throughout training camp, and then watching the first game, that they want to play Ausar and Ron together this year. They want to have those minutes together. And something I brought up on the podcast over and over was, okay, well, if you play them together, I have to assume that you are going to tell Stu to pop more. Like, you're going to need spacing on the floor. He's not going to be able to just keep rolling to the paint. I don't think you can really play them with Duren. That would be an experiment. Maybe they try it, but I think it's going to be tough. And then in the first game, I feel like you kind of saw it already. Like Stu, like you mentioned, Stu was popping on every screen. He was known as, or not known, but he was playing as a spacer for them on the floor. And then you played him with Duncan Robinson and Karis LeVert. So I feel like just removing the outcomes of the possessions to the side, like just removing that, I feel like you can look at that from what we, like the lineups decisions. I feel like you can get an understanding of JB's like, okay, it seems like the idea is they want to play Ron and Ausar together, maybe with another ball handler for if those things go sideways, they have a veteran ball handler and like a calming presence. So like it maybe if Ausar starts turning the ball over, or Ron starts turning the ball or whatever, they have another guy they can go to and be like, okay, like get us back on track, whatever, that kind of thing. And then they play him with Duncan, who's their best spacer, so they give him the best spacing possible. And then play him with Stu, because Stu's the only other big on the roster that can space out to 3-point line and kind of provide some of that spacing. So I feel like you got that idea. I feel like a lot of it was I speculated about that quite a bit. I don't feel like it was rocket science to assume that, but we got to see it play out in the first preseason game. The other thing that I really liked seeing, or that maybe not even just really liked, just it was interesting to see, was just how like the emphasis there was on running. Like I know they talked about it, but like it truly felt like they were trying to run even on makes. Even on makes, they were just trying to get the ball out and keep it going and just keep running. And there's so much talk. This is kind of, I guess, the angle I want to go with. There's a lot of talk from a lot of fans in the Pistons community that feel like Cade is bad in transition, like, and that he just plays too slow. That's like, I feel like that's completely incorrect, and he plays really well into it. And he didn't feel like
two different senses too.
Go ahead. Go ahead. Well, go ahead.
I mean, playing well in transition versus playing slow. I mean, I don't think that he's like. I guess I'll say there are definitely guards that I think are better in transition that I think Cade is better than. Like, I don't think that is necessary. Like, when I talk about how, all the best qualities of Cade, transition isn't kind of one of the first things that I would say, for sure. Not really, or one of the things that I would say, but I don't think he's bad in transition, right? Like, he can fill the wing. He can obviously make whatever pass that you need him to. Like, he's a pretty good decision maker in transition. I think that the finishing thing maybe pops up in transition a little bit more than it does for some other guards. But I think that the playing slow point makes some sense, but it doesn't feel like he slows down our transition attack. I think that he plays slow in the half court. Like, I think that he is very,
yes,
he controls the pace in a way. And he's very deliberate, and a lot of times, like, he won't cross the 3-point line until there's like 11 seconds on the shot clock, and that takes me off a little bit. I just feel like the faster you go, like, the tougher it is to play defense a lot of the time, right? The more that the defense is on their heels, the better, for a number of reasons. But I think that he is pretty slow and deliberate in the half court. But I've never considered Cade bad in transition. Sorry to cut you off.
No, yeah, I know. Well, I think you were correct in the way you talked about it. Like, he definitely plays to his own pace within the half court, but he loves pushing in transition, kicking the ball ahead. He does that quite a bit, and he loves playmaking in transition. You saw him doing that a little bit in this first preseason game. So it feels like you really just got the sense of what their identity is going to be and how much of an emphasis that part of the game is going to be on their identity. I guess the other thing I wanted to ask you about was, were you at all, like, this is another thing I'm going to be interested to watch for throughout preseason. Ivy played quite a bit off ball in this game. Like, even when Cade was off or he wasn't on the floor with Cade, which I don't think was very much. He wasn't on the floor a ton without Cade. But just in his minutes that he did play, he was off the ball quite a bit. Were you shocked by that at all? And do you think that maybe it's something we could see play out during the preseason? Like with as many ball handlers do they have? Do they try to have him just kind of play into what his strengths are, which, as I've talked about this a lot, how great he is off ball, catching, shooting, attacking cuts, and attacking gaps, I should say. Like, do you feel like that maybe is like a sign of like how they want to use him moving forward? Or maybe, just, did you take anything of that? Did that reach your radar at all from watching the first game?
Not a ton, because like you said, I think, like, I see him just kind of as an off guard right now, and you hope that he can grow into being able to take a little bit more of that on-ball responsibility. And I kind of expect him to. I think he's going to have to at some point. But it didn't shock me a ton. Again, it goes back to our point earlier. Like, it is kind of preseason. It's his first competitive basketball game, and I don't exactly know how many months off the top of my head, but a long time. So he's still getting his legs under. You could tell, I think, that he's still getting his legs under him, a little bit frantic, a little bit fast. Kind of quick to drive into some gap help, which is not.
I think we might have just lost Matt. Matt froze. Matt froze for a minute. All right. If we did lose Matt, I am perfectly capable. You guys know this. I host the podcast every single day. I am capable of going on. That's quite the screen freeze we got from Matt. We'll take him off the screen. If he comes back, I can bring him up. But we'll wrap it up there. I just thought to wrap that point up, I am definitely interested to see, because they have so many ball handlers. We saw so many people handling the ball in that first game. They didn't have Jalen Duren. We saw Cade. We saw Ausar. We saw Ron. We saw Karis. Like, we saw so many guys. And then obviously Ivy had the ball in his hand a little bit. But I feel like I'm just going to be watching for, if the Pistons brought in, and then obviously Dennis and Sasser, whatever. Like, and all those guys aren't going to play. That's not my point. My overall point is that I am going to be interested to see just how much do they increase the uses of Ivey on ball in preseason, or do we start to see maybe are they trying to have him just play to his strengths as he gets back to maybe where they want him to be? Maybe we see him get on ball a little bit more deeper into the season. But I it's just a little point I want to watch for the rest of the preseason. I just want to see how they utilize him within the half court throughout the rest of the preseason heading into the season. But coming up, I want to talk about the battle for the 10th rotation spot with the Detroit Pistons. There's been a lot of talk from JB about how deep the rotation is, and I just talked with Dan Jenkins' trainer this last episode. If you haven't checked that out, I want to talk about the battle for the 10th rotation spot and who's in competition with it and how it could work out. We'll talk about it coming up. Today's episode is brought to you by PrizePicks. Every day we make decisions, but on PrizePicks, being right can actually get you paid. Don't miss the excitement of this football season with PrizePicks when it's good to be right. Playing PrizePicks is such a fun, simple way to add more excitement to football. You just pick more or less on player projections like Josh Allen's passing yards or Saquon Barkley rushing for a touchdown, and you're in the game. I love how quick it is. You can make your lineup in just under a minute, and my favorite part is PrizePicks just added stacks. So if I want to ride with a player, I can select their pass yards, rush yards, and touchdowns all in one lineup. It's also fun to follow other players in the app and copy their lineups with one click. Download the PrizePicks app today and use code LOCKEDINNBA to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDINNBA for $50 in lineups after your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks, it's good to be right. So I want to thank you guys again for making Locked On Pistons your first listen of every single day. We are free to available on all your podcast platforms. If you haven't already, head to the YouTube channel at Locked On Pistons, hit that subscribe button, or leave us a 5-star review on whatever podcast platform you're listening to us on. That's another great way to support the podcast. Matt is still not back. It looks like something might have happened over there. We really got to help Matt out, man. He doesn't have a laptop. He's struggling with the Wi-Fi over there. You know, power going out. You know, he don't even know how he's going to watch the Pistons this year. It's going to be a struggle for Matt over there. We got to help him out somehow. But to wrap up the podcast, I want to talk about this 10th rotation spot. We've talked about it quite a bit over the last few days. But it seems like this is a reoccurring talking point from practices, from quotes, the interviews that we're seeing with players, or not with players, but with JB Bickerstaff, how much he's talked about. Oh, and Matt is back. We can bring him back on stage real quick. Welcome back, Matt. We're going to get you some – we're going to get you some help at some point. But anyways, what I was saying was this is a common talking point that we've seen from JB Bickerstaff over the last few weeks about this 10th man, or not even just the 10th man, more so about how deep the roster he feels like it is. So Matt, I'll let you came back. I see. Are we now at your oven? Is that where we're at? Are we?
No, we're maybe 9 inches away from where we were before I had to, plug in the charger.
No, fair enough. But go ahead. Talk about how you feel about the depth of this team, and do you think there is going to be a battle for the 10th rotation spot? Who do you think's fighting for that?
I think the depth of I guess I'll just start by saying I think that the depth is like a big positive. I don't know. Have you talked about the 10th roster? Have you introduced the candidates for the 10th roster spot, so to speak?
I have not. Yet. We just started.
Well, I guess
you joined right at the perfect time.
Sorry. Oh, okay. Good.
No, yeah, go ahead.
I feel like our third point guard, I'll just say, I don't know. I guess I don't know exactly what you would qualify Marcus Sasser as, but let's just say it's third point guard or first point guard that's out of the rotation, so to speak, or 10, or vying for the 10th spot in the rotation. He's got to be one of the better third point guards in the league, or one of the better sort of 10th, 11th man point guards in basketball. And then you look at I think Paul Reed's probably the best third string center in the league.
Right.
Orlando would have something to say about that, but yeah, I think the depth is one of our strengths, especially throughout a regular season, and that's kind of when I taking these off. When I was kind of vying, marking out how do I think that the Eastern Conference is going to go, how many games do I think that this team can win. Depth matters a lot in the regular season. Like you're gonna run into obstacles. You're gonna need to hit the 10th, 11th spot in your rotation, and whether that be one of those two guys, if Javonte Green has to step up, he's played like decent minutes, sort of in that role, or at least based on what you can expect from a guy in that role before. So I don't know. It just is so fluid based on who's playing and who's not. Who the 10th rotation spot's going to be. I feel like.
So I won't read this quote from JB talking about the depth of this team. He was specifically talking about Dennis Jenkins and Tolu Smith. He says, quote, I would have confidence putting all of our two-way players into an NBA game. They can help us get that done, or they can help us get something done. Obviously, we saw, I talked with Dennis Jenkins' trainer in this last episode of the podcast. If you guys haven't checked that out, go check it out. Talked with Jeremy Hart. That is, he is the assistant coach for SMU, and he also obviously is Dennis Jenkins' trainer. Were you impressed from Dennis in the first preseason game? I know we've talked about how we were impressed with him from Summer League. It seems like every time we get to see him, he plays well and continues to get better and better. Would you be shocked at any point if he ends up finding a way to crack that 10th spot, or do you think it's just such a long shot for him? It's highly unlikely to happen.
It just feels like one of the. It's nothing negative to Dennis to say that I don't know. Like, I don't really expect him to get rotation minutes for this team this year. I agree with you. He always looked good when I watch him, and I can't say that I'm hawking Cruz games. I know that there are some people that are, but every time that I've seen him throughout summer league or preseason or in the spot minutes that he has gotten in the regular season, when guys are out at the end of the year or whatever, like, he just knows how to play point guard, and he just knows how to impact the game, and he makes shots. And I agree with JB. Like, I'd be totally confident if Dennis had to hold down a 12-minute stretch in a game for us.
So I guess the question I want to actually ask here is, do we think there's going to be a 10th rotation spot? Because JB throughout his career has went to 9-man rotations. Even this past season with the Pistons, I know there was times where he played 10 guys, but either in one, he just didn't play 10 guys, or two, usually the 10th guy maybe played like 8 minutes and a half, and then that was it. So, like, it wasn't like it was something that they loved doing as much. It's not something he's loved doing throughout his entire career. Again, I've said this before. Things can change when the depth of your team gets so crazy that obviously that changes things. Do you actually think there's going to be a 10th rotation spot, or do you think we're going to see basically a 9-man rotation?
I think in the regular season in the NBA, if you have 10 playable players, if you can afford to go deeper, you should always go deeper to me. Just because, I mean, it just feels like basketball at this point, man. Like, by the time the playoffs roll around, I mean, who's healthy and who's not? Like, it feels
right.
like that is 40% of the series, 35% of the series. It's a war of attrition. It's 82 games. I know I've sent Koo the graph of players run an extra mile every game compared to how much they ran 15 years ago, and the pace is only going up, and teams just watch the Pacers make it to the finals and the Thunder make it to the finals. I think that you should really be trying to, like, squeeze every ounce of depth as you can in the regular season. Get if Cade plays 32 minutes instead of 36 minutes, and those are bad figures, but if Cade plays 32 minutes instead of 36 minutes a night, and it costs us 1 or 2 wins, like I'd deal with that if I can just say, like, he'll be fresher than Jalen Brunson is, when it's playoff time.
All right, so to wrap it up, who is if you had to pick one player to be that 10th rotation spot the most consistently throughout the season, is it Marcus Sasser?
I think it's Paul Reed.
Oh my, okay. How do you think that works?
How it works is tough. All right, so one, Jalen Duren, I think, led the league in fouls per possession last year, like fouls per 36. 2 different stats. But he fouled a lot, essentially. We know Isaiah Stewart, prone to missing a game here or there for really any number of reasons. Prone to throwing out the game here or there.
I thought you were talking about I was about to say, I talked about him being injured quite a bit the last few years, to be honest, but then I realized you were really you were really talking about potentially, telling someone we want to meet him in the locker room.
I mean, it happens. It happens. You don't get Isaiah Stewart for the 78 games if he doesn't get thrown out of 4. So I think Paul Reed's pretty good, man. He nobody in basketball created more turnovers than he did on a per possession basis last season. He just plays with so much damn energy, dude, and it shines on both ends of the floor. Yesterday, he was doing some decision making. He's running his handoffs, throwing backdoor passes. He likes to put it on the deck a little bit. He trusts himself to do that, probably more than anybody else trusts him to do that. But he's an animal on the boards. He'll get out rebounded he'll just get outmatched sometimes. There are other centers that can just outmatch him physically. He doesn't bring as much to the table as a lot of NBA centers do, but he just has so much dog, so much hustle. creates those turnovers, man. We talk about it all the time. These random Paul Reed blitzes
Yes,
and pick
dude.
and roll. I feel like it creates a turnover every other time, and like Ty Jerome is just like a half court. Like, what just happened? I think he should play. Like he earned minutes last year. Hell, we had to rely on him in the playoff time, right? Like he's the guy that I think that because of who the two players are in front of him, he's the most likely that will need to like play super high leverage minutes. And so I think that you just keep that engine running as much as you can.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. I think this is the year. At least it should be the year. It's Marcus Sasser. Sasser should be consistently in the rotation if he wants to carve himself out an NBA career. We know he's a good shot career. We know he can get to his spots. We know he can score the ball. But if he's not at this point developed in the other areas of where the Pistons trust him to be that consistent 10th guy and create minutes for him in a rotation, I think that says something about his future with the Pistons and his future in the league, really. So I feel like it has to be this year with Sasser for him. I know that's something that he's talked about a lot, that he wants to be a part of a consistent rotation. That's where he wants to get to. So if it doesn't happen for the Pistons, I think he could be a prime candidate to be traded. But Paul Reed, I can't disagree with you. Paul Reed impacts the game every time he comes onto the floor. I just question how much he's actually going to get to be on the floor with the two guys in front of him. But like you said, Duren gets in foul trouble, and we know Stu, like you said, Stu is Stu. So we'll see what happens. But we'll wrap it up there. Appreciate you guys making Locked On Pistons your first listen of every single day. We're free and available on all your podcast platforms. If anyone wants to, has a spare laptop hanging around that they want to send to Matt, DM Matt over on Twitter at Griff101. He'll give you his address, whatever. Don't stalk him or anything, but you can send it out to him, whatever, help him out. Because right now it's a struggle for my guy Matt right now. We might have to give him some Wi-Fi too. It's just all bad.
Good, man. I've been connected strong all day. Haven't had any problems on the Xbox with the Wi-Fi. We're good in that department. We made
it's bad for him when he says, "Yeah, we have no problems all day today." That's like that. That's like a rare occurrence. So, but like I said, appreciate you guys making Locked On Pistons your first listen. We'll catch you guys later. Thank you guys. Appreciate all of you. And until next time, I will see you guys later. Peace out, everybody.